the evidence accumulated over the years leads us to a disturbing conclusion. Modern man, Homo Sapiens, is a stranger on our planet. Ever since Charles Darwin presented the theory of evolution, we have understood life on Earth as a chain of living beings, from primates to the simplest life forms. However, as we approach the dawn of life, we begin to question the real origin of life on Earth. How is it possible that life originated through spontaneous chemical reactions, but that it has a single source and not multiple causal sources? Why is living matter on Earth composed of chemical elements that are rare on our planet and not those that are abundant? Was life imported to Earth from somewhere else? Man's position in the evolutionary chain is also a mystery. Initially, it was believed that man arose in Asia 500,000 years ago. However, with the discovery of older fossils, it has become clear that evolution is much slower than previously thought. The ancestors of apes are now dated to 25 million years ago. In East Africa, we find a transition to humanoid apes around 14 million years ago. And finally, around 11 million years ago, the first monkey man worthy of being classified as humanoid appeared. The first being considered truly humanoid, Australopithecus, existed around 2 million years ago in Africa. It took another million years for Homo erectus to appear, and another 900,000 years for the first primitive man, Neanderthal man. Strangely, despite the more than 2 million years between the advanced Australopithecines and Neanderthal man, their tools, sharpened stones, are almost identical, and the groups themselves are difficult to distinguish. Where did we come from, and how did we get here? These questions remain unanswered. But one thing is certain: the history of human evolution is full of mysteries and enigmas to be unraveled. At the dawn of humanity, unanswered questions arose. The emergence of Homo Sapiens, known as Cro-Magnon, is one of them. About 35,000 years ago, this new race of men appeared like a ghost, wiping Neanderthal man off the face of the earth. Their features are so similar to ours that it would be impossible to tell them apart in the crowd of any modern city. They were known as cavemen because of their magnificent art and the fact that their culture was nomadic, building shelters and houses out of stones and hides along the way. But there was something different about the way the Cro-Magnon lived. They didn't just use stones as tools, but also created specialized tools and weapons made of wood and bone. They lived in organized clans with a patriarchal hierarchy, and had a form of religion evidenced in their works of art in the caves. They also buried their dead, suggesting a philosophy about life, death, and even the afterlife. But how did they come about? Other traces of modern man have been discovered in different parts of the world, pointing to an even older Homo sapiens who lived in West Asia and North Africa around 250,000 years earlier. The appearance of Homo sapiens only 700,000 years before Homo erectus and 200,000 years before Neanderthal man is still an unanswered question. It is clear that Homo sapiens is such a radical starting point in evolution that many of our abilities, such as speech, bear no relation to our earliest primates. The mystery of the emergence of Cro-Magnon still hangs in the air, challenging our understanding of human history. The mysterious development of human evolution is an unsolved puzzle for many experts, including the famous Professor Theodosius Dobzhansky. He was surprised that Homo sapiens evolved during an Ice Age period, when conditions were not favorable for progress in evolution. The professor noted that modern man has many close relatives, but no clear progenitor. The question that remains unanswered is how modern man's predecessors emerged some 300,000 years ago rather than 2 or 3 million years in the future, after an evolutionary process. Some ancient sources, such as the Old Testament, suggest that man was created by gods or brought to earth from somewhere else. However, although we know where and how human evolution began, we still can't understand why it actually happened. Most experts acknowledge that there is currently no obvious reason why human civilization should be more advanced than the primitive tribes of the Amazon or New Guinea forests. The answer to this mystery is still uncertain and awaits an explanation. When we look at the tribes of Bushmen, who live as if we were in the Stone Age, we wonder, how is it possible that they have been isolated from this technological and scientific evolution? What if the real mystery is not that the Bushmen are behind, but that we are ahead? Human evolution took 2 million years to advance in the tool industry, from the use of raw stones to understanding how to shape them to better serve our purposes. So why should it take longer to learn to use other materials and master sciences such as mathematics, engineering, and astronomy? Yet here we are, just 50,000 years after Neanderthal man landing astronauts on the moon. The question to be asked is whether we built our advanced civilization on our own. Despite not having built skyscrapers or used metals, Cro-Magnon man undoubtedly had a revolutionary and sudden civilization. Their mobility, ability to build shelters, willingness to dress themselves, manufactured tools, and art. All of this represented an advanced civilization that was breaking an endless beginning that spanned millions of years and advanced slowly and painfully, step by step. But what caused this sudden leap in human evolution? Is there more to this story than we know? It's time to explore this unknown and seek answers. Amidst the mystery of the origin of humanity and the civilization of Homo Sapiens, one thing is clear. The Middle East is the cradle of our species. The Zagros Mountains, the Ararat and Toro ranges, and the mountainous lands of Syria, Lebanon, and Israel hide caves that hold evidence of the prehistoric human past. It is in this region that we find Shanidar Cave. Today, it is a refuge for Kurdish men and their flocks during the winter months. Around 44,000 years ago, it was the shelter of a family of 7, including the baby, who were seeking protection from the storm. But what they found was a tragic fate. They were buried by an avalanche of rocks, and their crushed bodies were discovered in 1957 by Ralph Selecki. He was looking for proof of the existence of ancient humanity, but what he found exceeded all expectations. As he excavated layer after layer, it became clear that the cave was a clear record of human habitation in the region from 100,000 to 13,000 years earlier. And so, a cold winter's night revealed one of the greatest treasures in human history. Shanidar Cave is a portal to the past, revealing to our eyes a glimpse into the lives of those first inhabitants of Earth. But still, many mysteries remain unsolved. Who were these people? Where did they come from? And how did they live and die? The answer to these questions remains a mystery, waiting to be unraveled. The mystery of human evolution involves many unanswered questions. But what the artifacts found in these caves revealed was even more surprising. Around 27,000 BC, there was an almost complete absence of habitation in the area, possibly due to climatic changes. Then something strange happened. Around 11,000 BC, man reappeared with an inexplicably advanced culture, as if a younger, well-trained team had been sent to replace the tired team. Man became a farmer, suddenly switching from wild subsistence to agriculture without any known preparation period. This is just one of the many mysteries of human evolution that are still waiting to be unraveled. But the discovery of Shanidar opens new doors to understanding the human past, and with it, we can begin to answer some of the most intriguing questions about our origins. In the mysterious world of archaeology and genetics, a truth is beginning to emerge. The origin of agriculture, so fundamental to humanity's survival, is linked to the emergence of the first primitive human civilization in the Middle East. This discovery, the fruit of the work of several recognized authorities on the subject, is based on the results of archaeological and genetic research, and leaves no doubt. But how did the experts come to this conclusion? Through the application of sophisticated radiocarbon dating techniques and botanical genetics, it is possible to affirm that wheat and barley were the first successes of human agriculture, probably the result of the domestication of a wild variety of wheat. Still, scholars wonder how man came to this self-learning of domesticating, planting, and cultivating a wild plant. But the surprise doesn't stop there. In quick succession, other basic cereals for human survival were discovered, always coming from the same place: the Middle East. In addition to wheat, there was corn, rye, spelt, flax, fruit bushes, and trees. It's as if, for millennia, the Middle East had been a genetic botanical laboratory guided by an invisible force, constantly producing new domesticated plants. And before it reached Europe, agriculture was already well established in this region. The origin of human agriculture is undoubtedly shrouded in mystery. But with the advance of science, little by little, the pieces of this puzzle are falling into place, and the truth is emerging. In the dark mysteries of the past, experts investigating the origins of the vine came to a sinister conclusion. It all began in the mountains surrounding northern Mesopotamia and Syria and Palestine. Of course, this discovery is not surprising, as the Old Testament reports that Noah planted a vineyard after his ark landed on Mount Ararat. The Bible places the beginning of the vine harvest in the mountains north of Mesopotamia, which coincides with the experts' conclusions. Other fruits also have their roots in the Middle East, including apples, pears, olives, figs, almonds, pistachios, and walnuts. These fruits spread to Europe and other parts of the world. The Bible anticipated our experts by millennia by identifying Mesopotamia as the world's first orchard. And the Lord God planted an orchard in the Garden of Eden in the east. And the Lord God caused to grow out of the ground every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. The exact location of Eden has been known for generations. It was in the east of the land of Israel and was irrigated by 4 main rivers, 2 of which are the Tigris and the Euphrates. There is no doubt that the book of Genesis locates the first orchard on the plateaus where these rivers originated in northeastern Mesopotamia. The Bible and science are in complete agreement on this murky subject. Isn't it amazing that a book as old as Genesis has such precise mentions of the process of domesticating plants? What if this book is not only a theological text, but also a scientific one? The narrative begins with the words of the Lord: "Let the earth bring forth herbs, grain that produces seed by seed, fruit trees that create fruit by kind, that contain the seed within themselves." And that's exactly what happened. The earth brought out herbs, cereals that by seed produce seed by species, and trees that bear fruit that contain the seed within themselves by species. But the mystery doesn't stop there. The book goes on to say that after being expelled from paradise, man had to work hard to produce his own food. "You shall eat your bread from the sweat of your brow," the Lord tells Adam. Then we see the evolution of man from farmer to shepherd, with Abel mentioned as a keeper of flocks and Cain as a tiller of the soil. Do these ancient scriptures have more secrets hidden in their words, waiting to be unraveled? Ancient riddles are revealed in the analysis of the written records of human history. One of these enigmas is the sequence of events that led to human domination over wild nature. By examining the biblical reading of the book of Genesis, scholars discover a precise account of the process of plant domestication. But what happened when man decided to tame wild animals? It's a question that has been answered on the basis of historical research and discoveries. Frederick Zuner, in his work on the domestication of animals, points out that before establishing developed communities, it was impossible for man to acquire the habit of keeping animals in captivity or domestication. The dog was the first animal to be domesticated, but not necessarily as man's faithful friend. It was probably also used as a source of food, which is believed to have happened around 9,500 BC. The first traces of dog skeletons were found in Iraq and Israel. Not long afterwards, sheep were also domesticated. The cave of Shanidar contains evidence of sheep dating back to around 9,000 BC, indicating that most of the young animals were killed for food and skinning. Goats, which also provided milk, were domesticated next. Finally, cattle and pigs were the next to be domesticated. But the mystery still remains. How did man evolve to establish such complete dominance over wild nature? Perhaps the answer is yet to come. The Middle East was the cradle of domestication, an abrupt event that changed human history forever took place around 11,000 BC in this region and around 2,000 years later in Europe. Scholars describe this period as the end of the Old Stone Age and the beginning of a new cultural era, the Middle Stone Age. But was the change really as clear as it seems? The name may be appropriate, considering that stone was still humanity's main raw material. Their houses in mountainous areas were made of stone. Their communities were protected by stone walls, and their agricultural tools were made of stone. Stone was also used to honor the dead, adorn graves, and create images of divine beings whose protection was sought. One such image, discovered in northern Israel and dating from around 9,000 BC, shows the engraved face of a god protected by a striped helmet and wearing a kind of eyeglass. But what really happened during that dark period in human history? What led to this abrupt change and the beginning of domestication? There are still many mysteries to unravel in this distant past. The secrets of the age of domestication remain shrouded in the shadows of time, but it is known that the sudden change that took place around 11,000 BC. This region in the Middle East is the cradle of the most significant events in human history. In a matter of a few centuries, man evolved from hunter-gatherer to farmer, taming wild plants and animals. But what led to this revolution is still a mystery to experts. However, as our understanding of prehistoric history develops, it is believed that these secrets will be revealed. Nevertheless, it is clear that the new Stone Age Neolithic emerged after the age of domestication, around 7,500 BC, when pottery was discovered. However, it is still an enigma why human evolution towards civilization was restricted to the plateaus of the Middle East during the first millennia after 11,000 BC. Perhaps the answer is linked to the discovery of the uses of clay at the same time as man began to descend from the mountains in search of lower valleys with a greater availability of clay. The period of 7000 BC was marked by a pulsating creativity of ceramic cultures in the Middle East, which produced an incredible quantity of clay objects, ornaments, and statues. By the year 5000 BC, the region was producing ceramics and clay objects of superior quality and fantastic design. Then, something strange happened. Progress slowed down again, and around the year 4500 BC, archaeological evidence indicates a general decline in culture. Pottery became simplified, and stone utensils, a Stone Age artifact, became predominant again. Formerly inhabited places became increasingly rare, and the marks of a new phase of extreme poverty began to appear in some areas. Man and his culture were clearly in decline. But suddenly, unexpectedly, and without explanation, the Middle East saw the blossoming of the greatest civilization of all time. A civilization that has its roots firmly in ours today. A mysterious force once again saved man from his decline and raised him to a higher level of culture, knowledge, and civilization. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel for more great content. Together, let's explore more of the world's history and culture. See you next time.